like I mentioned before, a lot of executives are very confident people. I mean, they've built million, multi-million, hundreds of million dollar Fortune 100, 500 companies. They lead hundreds and thousands of individuals to make decisions based on their risks and ideas. They are confident people. So in identifying your edge, like I shared with the young entrepreneur who had this company they sold, your legacy, your history helps you. It's part of who you are. Just like my background as a designer in costumes, my background as a marketer, that all leads to who I am today and helps me understand my job better, be a better communications coach, be a better leader, be a better person. What has happened in your past helps people understand your present. And having that story, sharing those moments, sharing those stories is your unfair advantage. It is your edge. No one else is going to have that story. Just like my journey, or the entrepreneur who built this company from scratch as a college dropout. And there are many people that drop out of college and have successful companies. But Steve Jobs' story is different than Bill Gates, than my client. That is your unique advantage. Where AI cannot identify that. It cannot write that story for you. That's why we have to share those moments and be as introspective as we possibly can. That's the embodying. When you embody your voice and your vision, that's when you can change the world. And that is your edge.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing. Shelley, just want to ask you, let's say there is a senior executive leader just putting you on the spot, asking you a question, and possibly we could just plug in the framework. Let's say you have an executive senior leader, watching and listening to this podcast, and this person has all the capabilities, understands the market, is an expert from a domain point of view, technically is very, very sound, has been in the industry and in that organization for the last 10, 15 years. So from a knowledge point of view, from an information point of view, he's doing well. But somehow he feels that when he's communicating with his team, somehow he sees that the team is shut down. They don't easily open up to him. And, even though he tries, listening to his coaches and saying, okay, I need to do this, be more empathetic, be more compassionate. But somehow he sees that, a lot of his team members don't open up to him. And as a result, he does not know why they are not performing. How would you use the framework for the leader? Like, if you could possibly give us an example.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad you asked this because I love interactive and I love experiential training. So let's use a real life example. Most people that run businesses, that founded companies, are very confident in what they do. Fortune 100, 500, billion-dollar companies, they're trying new things and taking risks every day. So what is the piece that's not helping them communicate? It certainly, I wouldn't think would be confidence. They've got confidence. It's stepping into that power. So, for example, I worked with a young gentleman who was an entrepreneur and was a multimillionaire before he was 27 years old, a college dropout. He had built this company and sold it for millions and millions of dollars. Now, he said to me, Shelley, I'm being asked to speak on stages, on podcasts. People want to interview me. But when I sold the company, that was like the past. He really believed his identity was sold with the company. So we worked together using the framework. And I said to this gentleman, what is your big idea? What was your big idea behind starting that company? He gave an example and the value of it. That is his secret weapon. That is his unfair advantage because nobody else has that story. and identifying it using the framework, that is his answer. That is his baseline for going on to these podcasts or interviews, because he did not leave his identity with the company. That always stays with you, like my costume design, like my marketing. It's who I am. It's part of what I am today, and how the certain experiences of those times help me become a better leadership development coach. Now, it's similar when you're speaking to your employees or your board of directors. What is that experience? What's the big thing? What's the big idea they need to know about you? Your example, what's your experience? Sharing that story and the value behind it, and inviting people to connect with that story. That's your truth. You can share it, you don't need a script for it, and you leave it at that. You will be surprised, as we all are when we hear a great story. Wow, I really appreciated it. Wow, that's just like me. They understand successes and failures alike. You too have had those. And then that's where people connect on those similarities, on those shared experiences. So the leaders doing the drill, identifying these moments in their journey, is part of their legacy.
It's interesting how, you could have directly answered the question by giving, let's do this. But you actually went a little deeper, wherein I think what you did is you basically brought the whole element to, what do I really believe about myself? What is my big idea? What is what I stand for? What made me successful? Like the example that you gave. And when people listen to the story of the success and the fail and the struggles and what went well, I think, like you correctly said, people connect. So sometimes you don't even have to tell them open up. People will open up. And I think that's a good way you brought this together. So rather than, just telling, okay, this is the formula, do this, you said, this framework can actually be used in such a way that you impact the people by, number one, going back to yourself, looking at your own identity, sharing that identity to the other person. And as a result, people start connecting to the story. And what do you say, like in a subconscious level, not just on a conscious level, on a subconscious level, they start attracting and connecting to you. Am I right?
That's the embodiment of the voice and the vision. You've got a vision. When you embody it and you connect it to your voice, that's when we can change the world. And this framework was developed out of my own personal way of learning. I am still pretty strong-headed and strong-willed. I don't like when people tell me what to do. I need to do this. I have to do this. That adds pressure. So, and I mentioned, for me, it's experiential. Driving people through it by experiencing it, by sharing a journey, by allowing people to experience my story. That's how I learned, and that's where I applied the framework, and it's clearly helping other people.
You say that, excellent communication isn't optional. It is basically a leader's edge. For anyone who's going through transformation, going through change, going through disruption with the dawn of AI, how does becoming a remarkable speaker directly impact their ability to lead change and create a legacy for them?
I'm going to go back to the young entrepreneur I spoke to that sold his company for millions and millions of dollars. He felt void. He felt like he had to start a new chapter, and everything before that company is in the past. The past really explains your present. You're not dwelling on your past. You're sharing those stories, you're sharing those moments, because no one else has your journey of that, your experience. Now, many people have started companies just like this entrepreneur. But how they did it in their own way is the unique identifier. That's, again, your unfair advantage, and that's your edge. That's how you build your legacy. So when we read about Steve Jobs, we read about Dolly Parton, we read about any kind of leader, successful business person, entertainer, their journey is what compels us. There's so many documentaries out there to learn about how hard it was in the beginning. Maybe it was easy, but those trials and tribulations, experiences, that's your edge. Because I too use AI as a co-pilot, as an assistant, but AI isn't going to know your journey unless you tell it to them. So Remarkable Speaking, the framework helps you get deeper back into your history. Whether it's yesterday or 20 years ago, and those experiences are forming and shaping who you are today, and AI will not have that. So that's going to be your unique identifier. That's going to be your edge.
Recently I was reading about, that a lot of people do not talk about their culture, their heritage, and what they have been through. The good, the bad, the ugly, the experiences that they have gone through. But in reality, that actually is basically the strength, right?
Absolutely. There are studies that show, and this is very important. I'm glad you brought that up. I've worked with people in well over 50 countries. So there's lots of different cultures and language, norms that are specific to those particular cultures. There is evidence that says, regardless of your culture and how restricted it may be, everybody wants to be acknowledged. There is a percentage that they feel better about themselves knowing they've done a good job and they feel good about it and somebody's acknowledging it. So there's a degree of how you might want to promote yourself. But again, it goes back to your story, sharing those moments in an interview. Why do you love your job? Tell us a story.
Great news, the conversation continues. When you subscribe, like, and ring the bell, you'll know when a new episode has released. As always, speak remarkably.